I mean, in general, I am someone who likes to share information and share knowledge. I like to help people understand things. I like to work with people and see that aha moment.
To the music. Welcome, adventurers. Today's podcast features Two Turtle Tom, as you can see on the screen, or Tom Arbor. This is the second time he's been with us. The last podcast aired August 18th of 2023. I had to look it up. So it's been over a year. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing pretty well. How's it going?
Great. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So, as Two Turtle Tom, I specialize in hingeback tortoises and have been working with the hingeback tortoises, the genus Connexus, like continuously for 25 years. I've not had a hingeback tortoise for that long, and recently I've been getting interested in chameleons and working with you, caring for a helmeted chameleon, and then I purchased another captive bred helmeted chameleon. I'm also really interested in fish right now, and I've set up this big 110-gallon aquarium, and that's been a really cool, fun thing to dive into the world of tropical fish. And so, as Tom Arbor, I study plants for a living, and I'm the curator of living collections at Holden Forest and Gardens. And you may have seen we just were featured on Idea Stream, and they came out and did a very nice article about the Holden Arboretum. We had a huge storm, as you know. You lost power for many days. I didn't lose power, but at the Arboretum, we lost power. We lost over 100 trees in that storm. So
Wow.
that's my day job, plants and trees. And I love reptiles and amphibians and fish, everything too. And I've had the fortune to work professionally with animals and plants throughout my career since I was in college, and then also as a hobby too. So balancing those is the fun part. It can get tricky sometimes.
All right. So how would you define yourself? You kind of did, but I
Yeah,
asked everybody with this, and I asked you this a year ago, so
sure.
we'll see how the two
Yeah,
compare. I
yeah,
made you listen to
totally.
it.
Yeah. I mean, in general, I am someone who likes to share information and share knowledge. I like to help people understand things. I like to work with people and see that aha moment in their minds and brains when they understand something that uh, in our field is often particularly complicated. But that's what I like to do is take things that might be complicated and make them easier to understand. And so whether it's in my reptile outreach, on my Two Turtle Tom YouTube channel, helping people understand things, teaching. I love teaching. I thought about being a teacher, but I teach in other and different ways. So that's a little bit about how I would really define myself as a person and how I interact with others.
What today is your most desired exotic pet? We talked about all the pets you've had and what
Yeah,
your favorite pets were, but what would be the one exotic pet you would have? I guess we'd have to say, particularly in your positions and what you've
sure.
been over time, legal exotic pet for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
while.
yeah. Totally. I'll tell you one turtle that I've always dreamed of since I saw like 30 of them in a 33-gallon long aquarium at Finn's Feathers and Furry Things Pet Shop in Stowe, Ohio in the late 80s, early 90s is the big-headed turtle from Vietnam and Thailand. They're extremely rare, they're critically endangered in the wild. A few people work with them in North America. There's a lot at zoos. They require really high water quality and a lot of attention to make sure that they're healthy. And so I would love to keep that species someday. My challenge, why I can't keep that species, is I have other projects, right? It's
Mhm.
just about time for me. Growing up as a kid, like you want the world, right? And you just wish, man, if I could only afford this or that. And so as an adult, it's all about balancing the time you have, making sure the animals you have are being cared the absolute best they can. And same thing, make sure that I'm caring for my family and being a good dad and father. So someday I would love to take on the big-headed. They're like the Asian equivalent of snapping turtles. They have this
Okay.
giant head. Their
Mhm,
their heads are covered with armored plates. They have a really hooked beak.
mhm,
Head is huge. They can't retract it into their shell. Um, they have a really long tail, which they can use to prop themselves up.
mhm,
Their natural habitat is these like high gradient streams, kind of cold water, sort of up in higher elevations.
mhm,
So they're adapted to climbing up waterfalls and things like that. So if you look for videos of big headed turtles
mhm,
climbing, you will see things like them literally scaling up the corner of 2 walls. And I'm not kidding. They're incredible climbers, just
mhm.
fascinating turtles. Unfortunately, they're almost extinct in the wild. So a lot of people are working with them to make sure they don't go extinct.
That's a bummer. Yeah, so
Yeah.
are they not you're not capable of getting them from somewhere, or you just
You
don't
can
have
get
the
them.
time? Okay, you can get them, okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I won't ask any more details.
Yeah. I mean, they're not imported anymore. I don't know what CITES listing they are, but there are people in the US that work with them, but you're
Mhm.
talking several $1,000s for a hatchling
Wow,
each turtle. An adult, might be 8 or $10,000.
wow, and how long do they live? Like normal turtle length, 75
I think they
years
can
or
live a
something like
long
that?
time.
Okay.
Turtle, you're any turtle that you keep, you need to be in it for decades.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter which one. You can't say, "Oh, I want the short-lived turtle." Yeah, that's
Only if you kill it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, it's almost turtles like are so resilient, right?
Mhm.
And so even in like horrible husbandry conditions, they can linger and suffer for a
Mhm.
really long time.
Yeah, that's sad. Okay.
It
So
is. It
you
is.
mentioned your family. Why don't you tell us about them?
Yeah, so I have 3 kids, Megan and I. They are 15, my son Weston, and he has a bearded dragon,
Mhm,
and he's really interested in animals, in the behavior and the interactions with animals. He just really likes um, holding his bearded dragon and just knowing it's there for him, as opposed to my 13-year-old son Brody. He has a bearded dragon and lizards and fish. He's all about the habitats. He loves building the habitats and learning about the ecosystems, and he loves fish too. So he and I go fishing and collect native fish and buy betas. My daughter is 7, and she has a leopard gecko and some guppies. And yeah, she likes to dabble in the reptiles and amphibians. And she particularly likes our baby Greek tortoise that we have, my only non hingeback tortoise.
mhm.
And then Megan, my wife, she's a saint. We've been married for 18 years when this comes out. And she tolerates it at all and supports us, but reminds us that we can't get too many pets because if we do, we won't be able to take care of those the best we get.
I've got a 31-year situation with 5
Yeah.
kids in the same, situation where she actually gets into some of them, but, she definitely, tolerates my, taking care of pets and going to pet shows, but she and I, we like to go on trips and little trips and what have you, so we go to all those reptile shows and
I took Megan to a reptile show, like, I don't know, maybe our fifth or sixth date, and it was in Columbus. And she hates rodents, right? So we are not. not a snake family, and we aren't a rodent family. Actually, we had some hamsters for a little bit because Brody wanted them so bad. But um, looking back, I can't believe she didn't run for the hills after I took her to a reptile show that had tons of bins of live mice and things like that. So she must have liked me
There you go.
because that was 19 years ago. So
Uh-huh.
I appreciate her support of what I do. And, the interesting thing is, yes, I've been keeping Hingeback tortoises for a long time. However, wasn't until 2018 that I really jumped like hog heaven into tortoises again.
So once again, tell us about the nickname, Two Turtle Tom. That
Yeah,
sounds
so
very New Jersey, I guess.
yeah,
So
totally. My buddy Brian Kelly is the mayor of Seabright, New Jersey. He also owns a company, if you are in New York or California or New Jersey, called Seabright Solar. And he just has a knack for entrepreneurism. And he knew I had two hingeback tortoises, like in my apartment when we were in graduate school in Oxford, Miami University, the first Miami University. And he's like, we're just sitting there in the computer lab one day, and he's like, Tom, you have two turtles, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, Two Turtle Tom. Yeah, that's your name. I'm gonna call you Two Turtle Tom. And so I've used that on the tortoise forum for a long, long time, and about a year and a half ago, or the end of 2022, so almost 2 years ago, I changed my YouTube channel to Two Turtle Tom from like a bad name about hingeback tortoises. And when I did that, my channel just really started to grow. I also started making a lot more videos, but nobody can forget Two Turtle Tom, Sean. So I thank Brian for coming up with that moniker, even though I have many more turtles today than I did.
clarify for the listeners, tortoises are part of the turtle family. So having
Yep,
tortoises meant you had turtles.
that's right. And so you'll hear some people say all tortoises are turtles, but not all turtles are tortoises. And
They got the Venn diagrams there.
yeah, um, the turtles are orders, right? Like you have different orders of reptiles. So you have the crocodilians, that they're in order. You have the squamates are in order, and snakes and lizards are actually in the same order. Um, and then you have the turtles in another order, and that includes all different types of turtles with a wide background in a huge diversity. It's just that we've picked out these two words to kind of apply to every one of those turtles, right? And so within the order, Testudines, which is the order for chelonians or turtles and tortoises, there's many families.
Mhm.
So the sea turtles are one family, the leatherback turtle is in its own family. Um, There's the pond turtles, they're a family. The soft shell turtles, they're a family. Um, there's two major divisions of turtles called the pleurodires and cryptodires. That's the difference between the side necks and the normal turtles. So there's lots of different types of turtles and different words for them, but tortoises are one family of the order. They typically are terrestrial. Hingebacks kind of break that mold a little bit. They all have very similar skeletal structure, although their shell can be different. And their most common attribute are what they call elephantine rear legs. So if you look at the rear leg of a tortoise, you'll see that knee like structure that looks very similar to the hind leg of an elephant. And they have a very flat foot. And so we call them elephantine hind feet And that's what makes a tortoise a tortoise. However, some tortoises have hinges, some don't. Some tortoises can literally be flat as a pancake, like a pancake tortoise. And some tortoises live in very, very dry habitats. Some bury under the ground, and you have some tortoises that live in the tropical rainforest. And so most people think of tortoise, they think of kind of like a drier habitat, but the tortoises that I work with, they kind of range throughout the different habitats of Africa, like from the dry grasslands all the way to the rich forests in Central Africa. And so that's the long answer. What a tortoise is, they are one family within the whole order of turtles and tortoises, or testudines, as we call them.
All right, there we go. Our taxonomy for the day.
Yeah.
Make sure you learn that. And there's a good video from Clint about the
Oh, cool.
different tortoises, or the
Nice.
different sea turtles. There's a bunch of different good videos from Clint.
Yeah.
It's about the 7 different types of sea turtles, one that's in a family by itself, and all the others, and
Yep.
where they fall and where they should fall. And because there's always discussions about where things fall as taxonomy, because it's us humans putting labels on things that we think belong together, and we've been doing it for a long time, and so we haven't done it the same way all the time. So there are things jump from genus to genus, and even different species and what have you. So there we go. That's
Yes,
my
they
2
do.
cents on
Yes, they
taxonomy,
do.
which is really confusing to me. But I don't know if it's confusing as much as it just keeps going and going, and they keep changing
It will
it. So
never
that's
end.
what confuses me. So all
Yeah.
right, all right. So fish. What about fish? You're into fish
Yeah.
now. What kind of fish?
So because I keep tortoises from Africa, I've always wanted to have a really big aquarium, and why not African fish to complement my African tortoises? And you're if we weren't a no mammal household, maybe I would look into African dormice, but um,
I can send
fish.
you a bunch of them, because Jennifer's actually decided that they're too much, because they're growing um like rabbits. They're multiplying, and so I
Yeah,
don't even know if we're gonna have dormice in a couple weeks. So there you
that's
go.
funny. So, but as someone who's like a professional biologist, naturalist, ecologist, done various things with natural history in my lifetime, I really try to look at the animals that I keep and think about how I can learn about the place where they come from. And so instead of thinking about what reptiles do I want to keep, I want to learn all about my number ones, which are my hingeback tortoises. I can learn more about them by keeping animals that live in their same habitats. And then I also look for plants that they would encounter in the wild. So that's kind of how I got into fish. I've always wanted a big fish tank. I have been searching on Facebook Marketplace for years for like a giant fish tank that was big enough but was manageable. And so finally,
What number of gallons do you consider big enough but
well,
manageable?
I'll tell you. Herps Alive
Mhm.
put this post, and they're like, "Hey, we have this 110-gallon
Herps Alive is
acrylic
the local
aquarium."
reptile scepter. We
Yeah,
don't live very far apart, about it at
yeah,
45 minutes. So
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. So, and I drive right by it on my way to work, or little diversion from the highway. But yeah, $100 for 110-gallon acrylic tank, and I'm like, that's it. I'm gonna get it. So I got it, and I built a stand for it. I watched tons of YouTube videos. I said I want to do African fish. I want to do African fish that are fairly common. A lot of the African fish species, like if you're really getting into them, they're wild caught. There's a lot of unusual African fish, but I went with Congo tetras. So I have about 12 Congo tetras, and when they are sold in the store, they're tiny and not very colorful, but they get 3 inches long. The males have the most beautiful iridescence, sparkling bluish greens and orange, and they have these really long tails. The females are, not quite as nice, but they have little flashes of blue and golden on their sides. And the common crib, which is a much aligned cichlid in the world, but is probably the most common West African cichlid that you'll find in a pet shop. It's
Mhm.
Pelvica chromis pole care, common crib or rainbow crib. I bought 3 of those and now have 75 because they reproduce really well. And what better way to stock your big tank than by the fish reproducing themselves? I bought some of the very common but somewhat reclusive upside down catfish. I've done okay with those. 2 of them passed away, but I have 4 left. They're getting bigger. And the 4th fish I have in that tank, just 4 species in 110 gallons, is called the banded barb. They're these small barbs, about 1 to 2 inches long, and they should be called the tiger barb because they really look like tigers. They're golden color. They tend to fire up like golden red, and they have these narrow vertical stripes on each side, black against that orangish background, like 10 vertical stripes. So I've got about 12 of those. So probably about 50 fish in that big tank. And the wood is mopani, which is an African species of wood. That's what I've used as the driftwood in there. And then my plants are all different species of a very common genus in the aquarium trade, which is Anubias. But Anubias grow in tropical Africa. So it is like the perfect plant for the African fish tank. So that's kind of where I've been. And I want to get a Congo spotted puffer or multiple to add as the next fish. But those are a bit pricey. And I want to see if I can find some that someone has bred in captivity because all the Congo spotted puffers on the market are wild caught. So that can cause problems. And I'd love to get one straight from like a hobbyist breed.
Cool. Jennifer actually bought me a 125-gallon glass tank, which is
Sweet.
really, really heavy.
Yeah.
And there's no middle thing where it doesn't have to have a middle piece. It's
Oh,
that thick
interesting.
of glass. So
Ah,
it's really old. She actually bought it for me as a engagement present. When I bought a ring,
wow.
she bought me a tank. And
Nice.
it's right now it's in the garage because I haven't moved it out of there since we moved to this new house and empty. But yes, I've had saltwater fish in it. I had
Cool.
Lake Malawi and Lake what Tanzania, whatever, what not Tanzania.
Tanganyika.
Yes, those different types of cichlids in it at one point in time, and so I've had a bunch of different fish. I had at some point my turtles are going to go in it. I think.
They're relaxing, right? And when you and I did your live show with Bill, one of the things I talked about as advanced keeping was cohabitation of reptiles, which is hard. It is really hard. But that's what's so cool about the fish world. It's the norm. And you can screw up like horribly, right? And have fish eat other fish. But there's so many people putting together community fish tanks that it's easy to find a community of fish that will live together, interact. Just you can watch them for hours, and I can watch my turtles for hours. But fish, it's just cool because it's not a project for me. I'm not trying to breed them. It's just purely to look at.
That's great. Let's Talk Turtles podcast. You do that, right?
Yes,
You're,
I
you're
do
part
that.
of that.
Yes,
Well, how
yes.
long's that been going on, and what is that about?
So it's the creation of Ryan Dumas, who is my buddy, and Ryan lives in Cincinnati, and he and his wife started the Let's Talk Turtles podcast. They did about 4 episodes, and they kind of, I think, lost steam. And I'd known Ryan for a while via the internet and social media, and we both worked with Hingebacks. So I contacted him in about this time in 2022 and said, "Hey, I like your podcast. Do you think you'll do any more episodes?" And he said, "Well, would you like to be on it?" And so,
That's dangerous.
yeah. So I went on, and the short like the short story is that I started hosting it with him, and we're up to 40 episodes. We release every other Wednesday morning, although we did miss a few weeks in the summer. But we are back to podcasting full time. We record an episode every week so that we can skip some weeks around the holidays and things like that. Um, we try to bring on guests to talk anything about turtles, and we try to cover the world of turtles from conservation of turtles. We've had several people that have been involved with endangered species listings of turtles. We've had plenty of keepers, and we like to explore what it's like to keep turtles and how that benefits us and how private keepers can benefit populations of wild turtles. Um, we just had Dr. Heather Smith from Midwestern University, who is an anatomist. And the latest episode is all about her work with fossil turtles called the bayonids that have these like long rat like tails, just crazy stuff, like 60 million years ago, these animals. And so we like to say if it's about turtles, we'll talk about it. We truly want to explore the topics. Turtles, people are passionate about turtles. And in general, in the turtle world, they're endangered and they're really rare. And the pet trade has hurt turtles. I mean, it's hurt turtles. We know that, and it continues to hurt turtles. So one of the things that we are exploring is how can we balance working with turtles and how can we give back? How can the knowledge that we gain through working with these turtles help turtles in the wild? How can we inform zoos on how to care for their animals better? There just isn't a lot of love and attention for turtles in the zoo world, and the private sector, it has an amazing potential to truly do fantastic work with turtles and tortoises, but we have to partner with folks who work with turtles and tortoises in the wild. And right now we're kind of at odds in the community. And as someone who's a professional biologist and ecologist, I kind of feel like I'm right in the middle. I can see the power of private keeping of turtles and tortoises, but if we don't collaborate and coordinate with those people that are working with wild turtles and tortoises, trying to protect them, we're not going to be respected for the knowledge that private keepers have. And so ultimately, that's the kind of thing that Ryan and I want to do with the Let's Talk Turtles podcast is like, how can we better understand each side so we can work together instead of working against each other? Because people are very passionate about turtles, and there's different opinions of how we as a society should go forth and protect and preserve and conserve those.
Okay, great. That sounds awesome. The mission is great, and
It's hard.
the TTPG, what is Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group, is that still
Yep.
ongoing, and what is that about?
So yeah, the Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group is a group that um it's a collaborative of private turtle and tortoise keepers, and they have a conference in November each year, and I've been to that conference a few times, and it is a great place to network with other turtle and tortoise keepers. If you are really into turtle and tortoise keeping, it is a great place to go and to really dive down into husbandry and network with the people that might be working with a rare turtle or tortoise. It's also a good group to get to know people in. If you want to work with some rare species but might not have the financial wherewithal to work with those, and especially endangered species, one of the things the Turtle and Tortoise Preservation Group is doing is that they're facilitating the transfer of federally endangered species between their members. They have something called the turtle and tortoise um, propagation something or other. I forget what it's called. But literally, you can say, yeah, I'd be interested in working with these species. And then if you, as a member, have a turtle or tortoise that you would like to rehome with another keeper uh, at no cost except shipping, you can kind of submit your animals to the coordinator and they'll sort of match up uh, what's wanted with what's available, and that's a really cool program. So that's one of the big reasons to join TTPG as well, and it's a great network of very good tortoise keepers
So how does
and turtles.
shipping of a tortoise go? I mean, I know you're not talking about a sulcata at
Yeah,
8 years with like 5,000 pounds, or I guess 500
yeah.
pounds. But how do you ship a tortoise?
Well, let's talk about sulcatas because how do you do it? You do it air freight, and back in the day, that was pretty much the only way you ship things. So um, the safest way to ship a turtle, especially an adult or good sized turtle, is air freight. Southwest or Delta does that. And so you literally take it to your airport and it goes on the plane of, passenger airplanes
Mhm.
um,
So
in the
it's in
belly of the
the
plane.
compartments where it's pressurized
Yep.
and normal temperatures. It doesn't get too
Yep.
cold, too hot.
Yep.
Okay, because heat is one thing that kills all kinds of reptiles. So
Absolutely.
more than cold. Cold is, yes, freezing is bad, but you could really get reptiles cold without killing them. So, and how do you like box it up? Do you put it in a box? I mean,
Yeah,
what do you do?
very similar to what you would, ship any reptile, but with
Mhm,
big turtles, you're
mhm,
talking about making large crates,
mhm.
that might need to be forklift onto the airplane or something like that.
Yes, because sulcatas and I guess the Galapagos wouldn't be fair shipping very many of those, but
Aldabras.
yeah, those get huge.
Yeah,
So
big leopard tortoises you wouldn't want to ship FedEx. Big sulcatas, Burmese mountain tortoises. Um, I had 5 Connexus homiana adult Connexus homiana shipped to me air freight. Um, so the nice thing about air freight is that the animal's being dropped off at the airport. A flight or two, they get to the airport where they're going. You go to the airport, you pick up that turtle, just like you're picking up your kid who's flying across the country to come home. So um, that happens probably more regularly in the turtle world than the rest of the reptile world. I've had like an 8.5 inch tortoise shipped to me through FedEx, and that was not fun. It just makes me nervous. Babies are fine. Um, Up to 4 inches is what I'll typically ship, and standard reptile shipping. I use Reptiles Express, but any of the companies, with the styrofoam box, phase packs are what I now use in conjunction with heat packs. We interviewed Chad Brown of Ship Your Reptiles on Let's Talk Turtles, and he taught us all about how they use phase packs. So yep, temperature control is important. I'm only shipping a turtle to the hub, the FedEx hub. I'm not going to let a turtle go on the car. And
that's the way many people have gotten
yep,
to be, because you can't predict what's going to happen on the trucks. They drive around. They could be the last one off, first one off. It could be, but you ship it to the hub. The hubs really know. My hub up here, at least at one point in time, everyone at the hub knew who I was. So that's really interesting. So that's essentially the same, but I actually did get airshipped the things I got from Europe. I haven't talked about yet on
oh
my
yeah,
show, and I
those
won't at
things.
this point. Those chameleons that I got from Europe, and I'm going to be talking about at some point. I'm going to be announcing that I have them on Bill's show some Saturday afternoon, but we haven't decided. I need to update our website. He needs to get a care sheet put together, so we'll we'll delay, and we haven't got. I don't have any babies now anyway, so we'll delay talking about that till a different time. But just a teaser here in the middle of this
They're
podcast,
they're just
number
really
25.
good-looking panther chameleons, right, Sean?
Well, no, they're much smaller and
I'm
much
kidding. I'm
hardier.
kidding.
So no,
I'm giving
they're
you an easy out.
that was an adventure when I shipped it from Europe because comes over here. It has to go through customs. I had somebody do it in customs, but they shipped it to Miami because the guy was in customs, and then it was supposed to go from Miami onto another plane to me,
Yeah.
and it went from Miami to Chicago to New York. So it went over my house 3 times before it actually got here. Ended up being 3 days. It was a nightmare. I only lost 1 out of 20 from that time frame, which is a miracle, but that's because they were just a hardy chameleon. So we'll see what I think we if we'll do better next time. That was my first international shipping. Bill's first. He was connected with the whole thing with me, but it was a first from those people. So we'll see what happens with that. All right, on to different topics. So we've already tried to talk. You've already mentioned what you're currently up to, the Kinixis and the
Yep.
fish. And what area of Africa are the hingebacks from?
They're sub-Saharan Africa, and they go all the way down to South Africa.
Hmm.
But the sort of Namibia desert kind of excludes them from the very southwest portion of Africa, like where all the really interesting tortoises are. So they have this really wide range, and up until 2012, they weren't really well understood. So when I was a kid, there were 3 species of hingebacks, and today there are 7, which is
See,
pretty
this
cool.
is just what I was talking about, taxonomy. They're the same animals that 20 years ago was 3 species, and now there's 7. Nobody
Yep.
did anything different. They didn't 20 years is not enough time
Yeah.
to actually adapt and grow with the environment. It's just learning more, right? That's what happened in the
Yeah,
process.
and it's what science knows, and what science knows is determined by what is published in peer reviewed journals, right?
Mhm.
And in 2012, a major study on the DNA of hingebacks throughout the continent, and there's a subspecies on Madagascar, was
Wow,
done.
that's cool.
Yeah. Now, that's got a little interesting story. I think it's on Nosy Filet, which I'm sure Bill has been there, maybe even.
Mhm.
But
Or at
um,
least he might be going there
yeah, yeah,
this
yeah,
February or January, whatever it is. But
yeah. The reason why it was so confusing is because there's no like clear borders with some of the species, right? And Africa, there is so much to be discovered in Africa. Like back in the 80s, there was a lot of awareness about Africa. Like when I was a little kid, we cared about it, and as it's really interesting. I feel like our country and like the whole world is just no longer as interested in other places and as curious about other places. But there's so much to learn in Africa and so much to study. Um, just in the past 10 years, if you're a biologist, you could describe and elevate new species of vertebrates in Africa using DNA technology. So they literally live in grasslands, savannas, forests, the Holmes hingeback and the forest hingeback, which are these two really weird looking ones with jagged shells. They've been known to be found floating in rivers. I have no doubt they're like box turtles where they will go into small streams and look for fish and tadpoles and crabs and shrimp and stuff like that. They have all kind of interesting freshwater fish. Um, the forest hingeback, one of the most fascinating, famous papers about the Kinixis erosa that was published is probably a decade ago or 7 years ago. But these researchers that were studying chimpanzees in the Congo rainforest observed that they would selectively go hunt these tortoises, and they would take them up into the trees and proceed to smash them on tree branches and use them as meals. And it was published in Science or Nature. I think it was published in Nature, which, Science and Nature, if you get published in those two journals, you've set your career in science, right? So isn't that fascinating? They tell the story of Africa, most of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. That's why I like them so much.
That's incredible. Not the
Yeah,
the fact that they're being
it's a
eaten,
pretty
but
crazy
you know what?
observation.
The world is, there's a lot of violence in the
Yeah,
animal world where animals eat each other, and you have to you have to take the good with the bad. But they're getting a variety of diet, and that's, I guess, good for them. So not good for the hingebacks, but as long as they're breeding and keeping up, that's good. So okay. All right. So, switching to another topic, what are your goals at this point? Have they changed since last year, or?
yeah, that'd be really interesting to listen back.
Mhm.
I think
So
I
just
was,
tell us now,
yeah,
and we'll listen back.
yeah, yeah. No, I was pretty focused on the YouTube channel,
Mhm,
and a year ago, and my goal was to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I did that
mhm,
in May. I realized this May
mhm.
I was doing too much, and I had to cut back, and I had to focus on myself and my health, right? And so um, that's really been the focus of this year, is making sure that I'm going to be around for a long time and healthy, and I'm having a sustainable collection that's also happy and healthy, happy family, happy wife, happy coworkers, and that's really what I'm focused on. And trying to be, trying to make money off of YouTube. You can do it, you can, but you have to put so much effort into it. It's just incredible. And so, if I'm guessing, when I listen back, I might have talked about my YouTube goals or something like that. Um, that's probably what's changed the most for me and in my life. Just kind of, let's just enjoy the animals, and not worrying about growing a YouTube channel. Just having fun with it.
I think the number chasing is something that, if you want to make money, you have to do. But you don't, it's like everything else. If you have 10,000 friends, you don't really have 10,000 friends. No one could ever have that many.
Yeah.
And the quality of your followers is a lot different than other people. And this channel, both in the podcast and in the live shows, there's a limited number of people who are actually there every week and listen to but they're always there every week. And when my power was out, they were complaining to the nth degree because I didn't have a show that week.
Yeah,
And
that's
so
awesome.
I got so many messages. So it was kind of like I couldn't get on anything and tell everyone that I had no power because I had no
Wow.
power. And but yes, it's different focus. No, I've never really focused on making money, but I thought, well, if I did, that'd be okay.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
never
yeah,
want to complain when you make money. I've kind of come to the same conclusion. I just want to be healthy, well, get enough sleep, get enough uh, exercise, get a good diet, and connect with people. And whatever I do otherwise, it's enjoyable, I'll do. And that's why I've actually, this podcast this summer, I was doing one twice a month, and I went down to once a month. And I think I'll probably stick with the once a month thing. The first 24, it was really great. You know, um, New people all the time, and new things and learning things, but finding new people in the circle of friends, it becomes, you keep getting out further, and you have to beg people to get on these things. And I don't want to do that. I just want to hang out like we're doing today and
yeah,
talk further and learn more. I'm going to probably be talking with some of the people I did podcasts before, as well as new ones, getting that many podcasts in, and that many, the live show every Wednesday. I do thank you again that we switched Thursdays to
yeah. No
Wednesdays.
problem.
You were doing Thursdays for yours, but that makes it a lot easier for me because I work on Thursdays and Friday. I'm actually physically at work Monday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm at home working. It's that's just we pick a topic. Even if we don't pick a topic, even if we pick a topic that doesn't, we end up talking for 45 to 50 minutes, anyways, because we just keep talking and people keep in the chat goes on and we go from different things. So that's really good. But these are a little different. So these take a little bit more time. We record them, I review them, I edit them, I post them. It takes a lot more work. The other one, I just get a topic, I get an idea, I put out the thing, and everybody shows up, and we do the best we can to stay on topic or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. No.
Anyways, all right. So that's your goals. How do people reach you? What's the best way to reach you?
Instagram
Hmm?
is probably the best way. Yeah, I think so.
What's your
YouTube,
Instagram handle? Two Turtle Time
it's
or?
Two Turtle Tom. I'm Two Turtle
Mhm.
Tom everywhere that you can be. I seem to have a market on that.
Mhm.
I also have twoturtletom.com, but yeah, I think Instagram. That's probably the best way. I'm also on Facebook, and if you have a plant question, you can Google me and find my work email
Mhm.
address.
Okay, great. Any final words for the adventures?
No, I just
I
really
mean, they
enjoyed
won't
being
be
here.
final because I'll see you on Wednesday probably.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, just it's great to talk again and catch up.
all right. Well, thank you for being here. We always appreciate it. Hey, there's someone in the background with a page, right?
That's
And
Paige. Yep, she
and
can't hear
who's
you. But
is that? Her bearded dragon or someone else that she's carrying?
whose bearded dragon is this? It's Brody's bearded dragon.
Brody's bearded dragon. But welcome, Paige. Thanks. You're going to be in the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. See you later. If you enjoyed this adventure and want to be alerted when more are available, please click the subscribe and maybe even the bell button. Thank you.